we talking?
I have a deal for you. You receive full pardon for every criminal action you've committed in the United States. It was an accident. About an hour ago, a small jet went down inside New York City. The president was on board.
President of what?
That's not funny, Plissken. You go in, find the president, bring him out in 24 hours, and you're a free man.
24 hours, huh?
I'm making you an offer.
Bullshit.
Straight, just like I said.
I'll think about it.
No time. Give me an answer.
Get a new president.
We're still at war, Plissken. We need him alive.
I don't give a fuck about your war. Or your president.
Is that your answer?
I'm thinking about it.
Think hard.
Why me?
You flew the Gulf Fire over Leningrad. You know how to get in quiet. You're all I've got.
I guess I go in one way or the other. Doesn't mean shit to me. Give me the paper.
When you come out.
Before.
I told you I wasn't a fool, Plissken.
Call me Snake.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves.
You are listening to the High Tech Low Life podcast, a cyberpunk media retrospective. High Tech Low Life contains language and themes not suitable for all audiences, as well as spoilers for the content being covered. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back, my friends, to the High Tech Low Life podcast. Once again with your hosts, Eric and Josh. My name's Eric.
I'm Josh.
And you might notice our intro's back. Our professionalism has returned.
Thank God. It was honestly, like, I listened to last week's episode just to see, because I think a couple of times during the episode, you had made some comments about how maybe that should go at the front.
Yeah.
Just to see if anything happened. And fuck, it sounds insane. Just
jumping right into
us jabbering bullshit with no fucking intro. I mean, we've only had an intro for like 350 odd episodes now. So,
the new one, it's not the same one. The hard drive is still dead. I'm still hoping I can revive it at some point, but I reconstructed it painstakingly from memory and from listening to old other podcasts. But I could not find the website that I use the text to voice on. So I had to get a new robot introducer, which I don't like this guy as much, but you know, it is what it is.
I don't know. He seems nice. We'll probably get used to him.
All right. But I did get to add spoiler alert at the beginning, which I've been meaning to do for a long time. So maybe it's all for the best.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good addition. I mean, you know, I would think that the whole media retrospective podcast would clue people in, but just make it very clear that we're going to be covering spoilies.
Yeah, and stay tuned to the end for the new and improved outro as well.
Yes, the outro. I really, really liked the outro change.
Yeah. Anyway, we're back for another week. Anything we worth talking about? Last week we were all aghast with your bombshell personal info drop of your croc purchase.
Yep.
Still reeling.
Yeah, well, that's understandable. I know it sent shockwaves through the community.
Yeah, through the nation.
Yeah.
I do at some point, maybe we'll do it at the end, I guess. We had some comments on our last episode and on the book Trouble and Her Friends.
Yes.
From the person who suggested it, and I kind of wanted to read those because it's good insight. Should I do that before we start, or should I do that at the end? What do you think?
I think we ought to do that early,
Okay.
partially because The dystopia news is basically just a nice continuation from last week. We don't need to directly address it much.
Yeah, except to say,
Yeah, it still fucking sucks. And I mean, get out there, put your name on petitions.
overpasses.
Overpasses would be cool too. Key it into cop cars.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a travesty that's happening in Palestine state specifically.
Yeah, go to protests if they're happening near you. If you're one of those especially motivated people, plan a protest.
I can't imagine. I've always wondered, every time I hear about a protest, I see a protest, I go to a protest, I am amazed that somebody had to start that and how they did it. It's obviously not a single person that does it. It's a group effort. But
Yeah.
what talent that must take.
Yeah, it really helps if you're organized like well beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, like say with a lot of the was that 2-3 years ago, the BLM protests that were sweeping the nation. A lot of those began with pre-existing organizations like,
Right.
A church or set of churches sets up a protest and then grows and grows. But yeah, that's not a. I'm happy to be a member of organizations for various causes, but man, I am not in the planning sections of them.
Yeah, more of an infantryman than a general.
I'll show up and start screaming, but I don't know about like getting people lined up.
Well, famously, people hate us, so
Yeah, that's true.
not good at that at all.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, dystopia. It's still going on out there.
Still dystopian.
Yeah, that'd be a good bumper sticker if we ever make those. Still dystopian.
Sometimes it do be like that.
Yeah. All right. Let me see what this message from Kraz, who suggested Trouble in Her Friends last week. If you haven't listened to that one, well, this might not make any sense to you.
The real short version is both Eric and I liked it a lot for the vibes. It wasn't, it didn't follow through on the plot as much as we'd hoped, but it's still definitely worth reading, especially if you are curious about or fondly remember the internet of the early to mid 1990s.
Yeah, which is basically what Kraz said. Basically, it's funny to listen to the newest episode and hear both of you have almost the exact same likes and dislikes regarding Trouble in Her Friends that I did. Also, Melissa Scott is still very much around and online. And when I filled out the contact form on her website, she emailed me back the next day. So she's out there. We could contact her if we had questions.
Yeah.
And then apparently this Kraz spoke to her, and he has or I'm assuming they have a quote. This is exactly why this is a quote from Melissa Scott. This is exactly why I wrote the book, to share to people and the connections that I had, to tell a story about our people that other queer folk would recognize. And I admit partly to prove to my partner that I could make Cerise and Trouble work. But that's another story.
Yeah.
So there was some personal stuff going on there, which is cool. And it was pretty much all written in a flurry of, emotion and gusto.
Yeah. And I mean, for that, pretty goddamn solid. I mean,
Oh yeah. If we do another Melissa Scott book, we should probably try to reach out to her.
yeah, I like literally, and I think I texted you about this. When I was about 2/3 of the way through the book, I found her online and almost emailed, like, "Hey, we're going to talk about your book. Would you like to say anything?" And then I was really glad I didn't after the fact, because that was right before the book kind of took the turn into some stuff that didn't work for either of us.
Yeah.
And I'm so fucking glad I didn't, because while I would love to talk about the book with her, I definitely wouldn't want to fucking contact her saying, "Yeah, I'm really loving the book," and then have a bunch of bitching about it.
Yeah, it's a tough. It's tough in this situation because you want to be honest about your opinions of the book. But I'd like to speak to some of those creators too. I think that would be
Yeah.
interesting, and I'm sure they can take some constructive criticism. It's not like we
Oh, I'm
obviously we
sure.
both liked it,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's still hard to do to their faces. I don't know.
And I think hearing what Kraz got from her, I am assuming that she would probably take it pretty well and understand, like, if it was written all in a flurry and just mainly focused on the relationships, I'm betting if she gives it any thought at all, knows like, oh yeah, that could have been cleaned up. But
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Like when I cook food and there's not enough salt, I know there's not enough salt.
yeah,
So somebody telling me that doesn't really make me feel that bad, but
yeah,
still, I want there to be good vibes when we're talking to a guest. So it's that's why we're not journalists. We're asshole podcasters.
yeah, no shit.
We don't want to hold anybody's feet to the fire. It's not why we're fucking here. So anyway, thanks, Kraz, for the insight
And the recommendo for the book.
and the recommendo. Yeah. So we might hear from them again. Okay, so let's go press onward. Put Trouble and Her Friends into the past for now. Is there any recommendos we want to do before we hop into?
I do not really have any. I've watched some things, but nothing I would terribly recommend. At least that I haven't recommended or seen before.
Yeah, we mentioned it last week, but I did finish Fall of the House of Usher.
yeah. Usher.
Yes, you have to say it like that. That's how it's spoken in my head every time I read it.
Yes. Yes,
And-
I also finished that. I had forgotten. Yeah.
I believe we said it last week that it delivers everything that you want from it. But we were talking on text. I will say on the record that I loved Mark Hamill in that movie. And I realized he was doing some crazy over the top acting, but I thought it was fucking great.
Fucking great. I mean, that was maybe my favorite Mark Hamill ever.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely high up on the list. His character was awesome. I love everything they did with his character, including the way they ended the character.
Yeah.
That's the henchman is my favorite type of character. And he just really nailed it. He was my favorite by far of the whole show.
Yeah, it was a huge, just a huge fucking banger of a character. Every time he pops up on screen, I'm like, ooh, what kind of crazy bullshit is he gonna do now? Like
His weird Batman voice, he was rocking the whole time. I loved it. Loved it all.
Something I've been harassing Melissa with for the past week was when Roderick and what's his sister's name?
I don't know. It's been 3 days.
Yeah. When Roderick and his sister are
no actual spoilies because that show's still fresh. But
are first mentioned to him the bar in 1980, and he says, "Tell me everything."
Yeah, I remember that spot. He's great. Watch All the House of Usher just for Mark Hamill.
Yeah, and also Henry Thomas, who was, of course, Elliot on E.T., and Joshua.
He's in all the Flanagan. Is that his name?
Yes, Mike Flanagan.
He's in all the Flanagan stuff.
Yeah, I really, really liked him in this one because in the other Flanagan stuff, Bly Manor and Haunting of Hill House and stuff like that, he mostly plays kind of sad, or at least just like normal dude. Mm-hmm. And his character in this was so far from normal dude, I can't even imagine it.
Yeah, he gets. Yeah, he's really good at being bad.
It is a masterclass in oddball fucking ticks.
He's gross and slimy and
pony nubbed
pony nubbed and really unappealing in pretty much every way.
Yeah,
intentionally so, which is awesome. So, I think Fall of the House of Usher is another Flanagan win.
Yeah, I thought
despite
it
its
was
flaws.
very good. Yeah.
So, That's it. Other than the thing we were supposed to watch.
Yeah. Hey, what was that thing we were supposed to watch?
That thing was the night. Shit, I didn't get the date. 1980.
One?
It was one.
Yep.
Wow, 1981 John Carpenter movie, Escape from New York. I always want to say Gangs of New York. I know that's not correct, but it's Escape from New York.
Slightly different. Yes. Did you like it? You had never seen the whole thing before.
Yes.
Okay.
Long pause to build tension, but yes, of course I fucking liked it. What the hell?
Yeah, obviously. This film begins, as all the greatest films in world cinema do, with John Carpenter digging around on a synthesizer and block letters that say John Carpenter's.
Yep. And like 4 minutes of intro credits.
Yes, it fucking rules.
Yeah, just the synthesizer over and over and the block letters, and it's fine. I was fine with it.
Yeah, it's insanely compelling. Carpenter can knock out a fucking earworm, man, because I have had this song in my head for a goddamn week now.
Yeah. When I heard it, I didn't realize, like, I've probably seen all of Escape from New York before today in various chunks put together. I don't think I ever intentionally sat down and watched the whole thing until this weekend. But that song I heard a million times, and I don't know if I had the MP3 or something at some point, but it was like
you absolutely
familiar.
did, because once upon a time in the early days of not BitTorrent, but the previous, like the Napster-ish LimeWire era,
yeah,
whatever that technology was called,
file sharing, early file sharing, I guess.
Yeah, I very specifically remember getting a John Carpenter scores MP3 on your computer because I think I wanted the thing, maybe?
Yeah.
But Escape from New York was on there.
I wish we could watch the thing for this podcast, but it's going to have to be for the Patreon.
I know. Oh, yeah. At one point, just FYI, because we're going to be going on about Kurt Russell a lot. At one point, our next podcast was, instead of this one, was going to be us watching every Kurt Russell movie.
Yeah, and I'm sad it didn't happen. The only reason it didn't happen was because I looked up and one had just started. They were 5 episodes in, and they were pretty popular. So, I didn't think we would have that's just too strong a competition. Like a new popular one starting off, and then us coming in right behind them.
Yeah,
it wouldn't have worked. But yeah, I was excited for that idea, and I don't know possible names. I was thinking Russell Up,
Yeah.
That was another problem. I couldn't come up with a good punny name for it.
Yeah, we tried. It was we were both very excited about that.
I like the Pork Chop Express. That would have been a good one, but there were other podcasts named the Pork Chop Express.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm kind of bummed that didn't happen. But there's always Patreon. We can watch as many Kurt Russell movies as we want on it.
Yeah, we really can.
God, he was awesome in this film too.
He's so good. Okay, so the basic setup of this film is delivered in a voiceover by Jamie Lee Curtis. In 1988, the crime
Is it really
rate.
Jamie Lee Curtis?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, in 1988, the crime rate in the United States rises 400%. The once great city of New York becomes the one maximum security prison for the entire country. A 50-foot containment wall is erected along the New Jersey shoreline, across the Harlem River, and down the Brooklyn shoreline. It completely surrounds Manhattan Island. All bridges and waterways are mined. The United States police force, like an army, is encamped around the island. There are no guards inside the prison, only prisoners and the worlds they have made. The rules are simple. Once you go in, you don't come out.
Can we agree that the best movies of all time have some type of crawl or explainer at the beginning to tell you what's happening?
I'm honestly surprised this didn't say something about rats in the walls of the world.
I was just thinking, like rats in the walls of the world.
And it's, I would be willing to bet that this is a direct influence on Gibson writing that for the movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We know for a fact the most cyberpunk thing about this movie, other than vibes,
Yeah.
is the fact that William Gibson very specifically cites this film as like, this is what he wanted the world to feel like in Neuromancer, and we'll come to it in a little while, but when Hauk is talking to Plissken in his office,
Possibly my favorite scene.
yeah, it's fucking incredible. S.D. Plissken, American, Lieutenant, Special Forces Unit, Blacklight, 2 Purple Hearts, Leningrad, and Siberia. Youngest man to be decorated by the president. Blah, blah, blah. And then it goes on to talk about how he flew the Gull fire over Leningrad,
Yeah.
which is basically the backstory for
Oh,
Cordo.
For Cordo, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Didn't put that together until just now.
Yep.
Well, that makes it pretty cyberpunk, even though there's not much cyber, and the technology they have is amazingly early 80s.
The technology they have was purchased at a Radio Shack in 1980.
Yeah, I love it. That watch with the timer on it, I'm like thinking back, like they had digital watches in 1981, and they didn't have to be ginormous fucking hockey pucks on your wrist.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty great.
But yeah. So how did you want to go through this one? Did you want to?
I pretty much tracked the plot in my in my notes here. Number one, it's 1997 now, so
Right.
it's been 9 years of New York as the prison island.
When I was watching this with my wife, she said 1997. I thought this movie was older than that, and then she realized, oh wait, that 1997 is the grimdark future. Oh shit.
Yeah. Actually, when it was apparently Carpenter wrote this in like 76 or something and set it in 1982 originally. And then was convinced to, move it up a little bit.
Yeah, probably wise. Although, I don't know. It could be. I feel like 5 years in the future from any point, this movie feels like it could happen.
Yep, pretty much. I mean, once we hit Reagan, 5 years from now, anytime.
Yeah. My biggest problem with it was how did they just eminent domain all that real estate in New York? That's the only way they could have gotten it all. I feel like there would have been some very angry rich people.
Well, New York wasn't looking good back then. So
that's true. It was a different town.
There were fewer rich people in New York than there are now.
Yeah. All right. Well, however you want to kick it off.
Okay, so we start. There's an escape attempt by a couple of people on a raft, and a helicopter blows them up.
Yeah, destroys them. Oh, one more quick anecdote. I was watching this on Freevee, so I watched the first 10 minutes like 3 times because I got 10 minutes in and the commercials kicked on, and they were such an aggressive tonal shift that I couldn't do it. So I went looking for other ways to watch the movie, and eventually found it on it's on Apple TV for $3 to rent.
Oh,
so
okay.
I ended up doing that.
Yeah.
But as a result, I watched the first 10 minutes 3 times because I had one failed attempt where I had to start over. Anyway, it was the whole thing.
That's exactly what happened to me like 5 years ago when Johnny Mnemonic was on Freevee. And I watched the first 20 minutes and then it cut to ads, and it was like, I don't remember, some knockoff Swiffer product.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it was like just as fucking Johnny gets to the bar with Ralphie. And it's like just this aggressively happy, bright, fucking like completely like aggressively off-putting for the tone of the film at that point.
Say what you will for targeted ads. Obviously, they're insidious and bad, and the world is collapsing around us because of advertising.
Sure. Yep.
But targeted ads and like mid-roll ads and that type of thing have done a lot for making ads less jarring. And like they used to be on television when it was just whatever product paid for this time spot. And Freebie was a reminder of that. I just couldn't get back into the movie after going through that.
Yeah, I bet. This movie is dark.
Yeah.
Switching to an ad palette from literally any scene in this movie is entirely wrong. I mean, this movie shot for fucking 90 days exclusively at night in St. Louis. So
Really, they shot this in St. Louis?
Yeah, in St. Louis. They were able to they'd had some sort of big fucking industrial fire that engulfed some of the not great slums in East St. Louis. So they were able to rent out basically 6 or 7 square blocks for nothing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing East St. Louis in the early 80s, probably not the most expensive place to rent for a few days.
Wasn't great. Wasn't a great town.
Anyway.
Then we get on to Liberty Island. We got the Statue of Liberty in the background. This was actually shot on Liberty Island, the exteriors.
Okay.
And it's just people wandering around, and we see Snake get escorted off a prison bus. We don't know he's Snake yet. He's just the coolest looking guy ever.
Yeah. With his early 80s power mullet.
Fuck yeah. And he gets marched down into the depths of the facility, where he hears another Jamie Lee Curtis voiceover that he's got the option to terminate and be cremated on the premises.
I love that. If they gave that option to prisoners today, how many do you think would take it?
I don't know. Good question.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
You don't have to, but if you want to just end it all here, now's your chance.
It's a great way to sell that, hey, you're entering hell on earth.
Yeah.
And then comes our second lead, fucking Lee Van Cleef in an armored limo with an earring and a fucking Cuban link bracelet.
I did not notice the bracelet.
Oh, you only see it in a few shots, but it's serious Cuban fucking links. It's hilarious.
And what a performer Lee Van Cleef is.
He is so perfect in this movie. I mean, Lee Van Cleef is, for his entire career, was insanely reliable, in just selling complete horse shit.
Yeah.
But his look, just the way his face translates to a post-apocalypse so perfectly.
Yeah. Same with Russell, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, you see these two guys having a conversation, you're like, yeah, these guys were through the shit.
That guy flew the
the Goldfire over Leningrad, yeah. And this guy was commanding the Texas Thunder mission. Yeah.
Also, Harry Dean Stanton also has that face now that I think about it.
Yeah, he absolutely does. There was some incredible casting in this film. I mean,
not a bad cast at all.
No, it's honestly very, very, casting-wise, it's fucking perfect, honestly.
I can't. If there is a bad one, it's some bit part.
Yeah, and I can't think of any. Mm-mm. I mean, yeah, all the casting is perfect. Okay, so then we find out that there is a jet in the restricted airspace heading towards New York. They don't know what's on the jet, but they do get an announcement or a radio signal from the jet. Tell this to the workers when they ask where their leader went. We, the soldiers of the National Liberation Front of America, in the name of the workers and all of the impressed of this imperialist country, have struck a fatal blow to the fascist police state. What better revolutionary example than to let their president perish in the inhuman dungeon of his own imperialist prison?
Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, it's very cool. So a flight attendant took Air Force One hostage and is steering it into New York.
Yeah, that's never happened.
No. There's some really great IMDb trivia about this. I
was going to say, I almost thought it'd be funny if we just ignored all the 9/11 stuff. As quick as we are to make 9/11 jokes and everything we've ever done, if we just completely grazed over it, but it's too late, and that's impossible for us.
Yeah, it really is. From IMDb trivia, I texted this to Eric. At the beginning of the movie, a terrorist hijacks and crashes Air Force One into a skyscraper in New York. On September 11th, 2001, terrorist group Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 commercial airliners. 2 of the hijacked airliners crashed into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York, causing both towers to collapse, killing 2,606 people. The 3rd plane crashed into the Pentagon, and the 4th crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Helpful? 8 upvotes. 33 downvotes.
I love how they just present 2 things. It's like in Empire Strikes Back, Luke Skywalker loses his hand while fighting Darth Vader. In 1987, a farmer lost his hand while threshing wheat on a small Kansas farm.
They don't even mention that, like, the World Trade Center itself pops up multiple times in this movie.
It's a very important part of the movie.
I mean, like, it's a real thing.
Yeah, he lands his fucking glider on it.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty funny trivia.
Yeah. Okay, so we're inside the jet. The president, with a briefcase and a little tracker watch, gets stuck inside a fucking Mork from Ork egg.
Yeah.
Then extremely cool and realistic CG of the plane crashing into a skyscraper, and the escape pod like apparently just plowing through like 50 floors of a building.
Yeah. Apparently escape pods can melt steel beams.
Yeah. Then, so at this point, they have figured out on Liberty Island that it's Air Force One that did this. So we get some choppas. Lee Van Cleef is on him with a bunch of fucking soldiers. They land near the plane crash. They're trying to investigate. Then, out of nowhere, we meet one of my absolute favorite characters in the movie, which
I was going to say possibly the coolest character in any movie.
Yeah. I mean, he's maybe the coolest guy of all time.
Possibly. He's up there. He's fighting Mark Hamill's lawyer Pym.
Arthur Pym.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is Human Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
A.K.A. Romero, named after George Romero.
Oh, nice.
Director of the Dead movies. And he has the president's finger. And he basically tells Lee Van Cleef, you've got 30 seconds to turn around and get out of here, or he dies. Touch me, he dies. Another chopper lands, he dies. So on and so forth. And then just does a countdown. And fucking Romero has, like, not just the look of the character, which is fucking deranged and awesome.
Love to do a Halloween costume as Romero.
Yeah, but his physicality is so fucking weird and off-putting. He's constantly doing this bizarre, like, posing and moving really oddly. Like, for his entire part in the movie, I could not keep my eyes off of it the 2 times I watched it this week.
I can't disagree.
I had remembered, like, when he popped up on screen the first time, because I haven't seen this movie in, I don't know, 15, 20 years. I was like, oh, yeah, him. And then, like, he stole focus anytime he was on screen. It was fucking insane.
I just Googled him for fun, and some of the Google images are amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's good. Good Halloween costume.
Yeah, yeah. And also, the actor who played him died in the late 80s, I want to say. His last name was Doubleday. I don't
Frank
remember.
Doubleday.
Yes. He was also in John Carpenter's first movie, Assault on Precinct 13. He kills a little girl in an ice cream truck and is a complete fucking psycho in that. But more importantly, for our purposes on this program, one of his daughters is the female lead of a little program called Mr. Robot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We're definitely going to cover that soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somehow. Not quite sure how.
I don't know. How do you do, like, 60 episodes of a TV show.
I don't know, man.
Poorly,
I've watched the
I'm
first
guessing.
season and never got
Yeah.
past that. Well, that's a weird. I mean, I guess it's not that weird, but it's interesting.
Yeah. So, back on Liberty Island.
Oh, here's a poster of like a black and white of Romero's face that I would hang on my wall.
Is it very erotic? I'm betting it's very erotic.
I'm going to send it to you.
Is it from? God, when is it? I think it's in this scene where he like they're running away and he like kind of cocks his head back and is like, huh.
No, he's got like the rock, the people's eyebrow going on. I sent the link in the
in the
Libsyn chat.
Oh, I see. Ooh, it's a T Public even.
Yeah, tell me you wouldn't put that on your wall.
Oh, that rules. It's like a cross. It's like
It's like
Eraserhead.
like a photo negative. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's fucking great. That's very cool. Okay, so back to the movie. Lee Van Cleef, whose character's name is Hawk, Hauk, comes up with a plan. And he's on the phone with the vice president and says, basically, if we land troops on the island, they're just going to kill him. Who cares? I've got an idea. So he is going to stick okay, so now we're 17 and a half minutes into the movie. Mm-hmm. Snake is escorted into Hauk's office. And that was my fault. Sorry. And at 1750, he sits down. Hauk says, Plissken. And the first line out of fucking Snake's mouth is, call me Snake.
Yeah.
So the plan is to sneaky Snake, on a glider to land on top of the World Trade Center, rescue the president, and then get him out on the same glider.
Yeah.
And this is an incredible scene with two actors who are doing exactly what they need to be doing perfectly. Like, I mean...
Yeah, I felt like I was watching magic in that scene. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me, but that was... it was over the top as fuck, but it was supposed to be. So it was... I don't know. Just watching the two of them go at each other was amazing.
Yeah. I think magic is a very good way to put it. Like, this is literally the perfect scene to have these two characters in. Like, every line is dead on. There's nothing, like, there isn't a piece of punctuation out of order. And both of them are exactly what they need to be.
Yeah.
Like, Hauk says something about the president's gone down to New York. And Snake's line is, president of what? And then like three lines later, I don't give a fuck about your war or your president.
I love him so much. I see why Snake Plissken has become such a folk hero over the years.
Yeah, and while this movie is fucking great, this movie only works because of Snake Plissken.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, if you did anything else other than exactly the modulated performance that Kurt Russell gives, like, okay, let's see. There were some alternate castings. Tommy Lee Jones was one.
Oh, really?
Charles Bronson was one, who would have been fucking 55 or something like that doing this.
I never was a Charles Bronson fan.
Yeah. It is great in the 50s and 60s. Once like Death Wish kicked off, got a little weird. But like, you can't do this movie and have it be any good at all without this perfectly modulated performance from Kurt Russell. I mean,
maybe, and it's too early, but maybe Bruce Campbell.
I could see that. I mean,
that's getting closer anyway, closer than Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, but yeah,
it's got to be somebody. I obviously didn't watch the movie in 1981, but it's got to be somebody that you can imagine doesn't take themselves seriously. Like I don't know. I feel like if somebody went in there and played, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Because it's not like Kurt Russell puts any humor in the role, but he also kind of intrinsically knows that it's a ridiculous role. Is what I'm saying making any sense?
Yeah. The movie is inherently funny and satirical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not to the level that we will later see, and we will absolutely at some point on the special features or on our Patreon absolutely legally have to cover Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes.
It's not to that level.
Watching this movie did make me just want to binge Kurt Russell movies. I'm not gonna lie.
I know. Yeah.
Captain Ron.
Yeah.
Overboard. I just want to watch them all again.
Yeah. It's not quite to that level, but it doesn't, like, Kurt Russell has the perfect amount of slightly ironic remove.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's what I was looking for.
Snake knows that he's the action hero in this, and it's the same thing as Han Solo. Han Solo does not want to be in a fucking Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Like,
True.
Han Solo hates the idea of being in a Star Wars movie.
Harrison Ford could maybe do Snake.
I could maybe see that, yeah.
Like,
honestly,
Kurt Russell, Harrison Ford, and Bruce Campbell are pretty much the only three I can really...
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like Bruce at the time would have been way too young.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was after Evil Dead shot. So
Yeah, but he was young in Evil Dead. So
that's true. Yeah.
Kurt Russell, like he had to have been a veteran. And granted, veterans are like 18
Good
years
point.
old now. So,
Also
but
true.
Kurt Russell has a little bit of that grizzled, you know. Anyway, we could...
Which is fun because
they
his last
casted
movie
it perfectly.
before this,
there's no
last
point.
movie before this was like the computer wore tennis shoes Disney brat film.
Oh, really? Shit.
You know what?
When you get a sec, click the other link I just put in the
Oh, okay.
chat.
You know what else came out this same fucking weekend that this movie did? Another Kurt Russell movie. Can you guess what it is? Wow. Okay, that is a really great piece of art you've just posted.
It's going to go on Twitter.
That needs to go on the Twitter.
Another Kurt Russell movie in 1981.
Exactly. Yes.
No, I my brain ain't working.
A little film you've almost certainly seen. He plays a character named Copper, I think. The Fox and the Hound.
Oh, wow. He has a voice in that? Was that animated? Okay.
Yeah. The Disney Fox and the Hound. He plays the fox.
Well, yeah, he definitely had a switch at some point, didn't he?
Yes, he certainly did. Okay, so yeah, what we were saying is that this scene is magical and almost impossible to replicate because everything has to be on exactly the right wavelength from, like, probably the font that was on the fucking script pages on up.
All right.
So he basically says, I'm going in. I got to go in one way or the other. Might as well. And agrees to this insane plan. Then go to a lab where a doctor named Cronenberg exists.
Yeah, believe me.
Is giving him some injections to protect him against viral and bacterial infection for the next 24 hours. And Hawk says, oh yeah, and that plan you had about turning the Gulf Fire around 180 degrees and going to Canada? Just the perfect amount of head shake. Like, that's not happening, bud. Because they have injected some bombs into his fucking neck that'll blow up in 22 hours.
Yeah. What else that we've watched recently had this happen in it?
Well, let's see. There was that Aziz Ansari movie, based on the real life thing with the pizza delivery guy.
No, I was thinking of Case.
Yes. Okay. Yes,
Sure,
actually,
maybe the Aziz Ansari movie too, but Case was the main one.
Yeah.
That's almost exact. That's almost like if he was using this as inspiration, that's almost a direct ripoff.
Yeah, I mean, except in Neuromancer, it's a virus, but yeah.
Yeah.
So he can have these explosives that are now in his carotid arteries disarmed within an hour of the 22-hour timer that is now on his wrist. But it's, that puts a nice ticking clock on it. And almost more important than anything else in the scene is the fact that it's about, he needs to get not just the president, but this tape recording that the president has, which he's going to present at a summit, and I can't remember where, to both Russia and China, who the U.S. is currently at war with.
Yeah.
And the tape recording is arguably more important than the president, it seems like.
Yeah, it seems that way.
So then, and he also gets a bunch of fucking guns, a homing device, and a tracker and shit like that.
Yeah, a bunch of fun gadgets that look really
clunky.
I love
a literal Radio Shack walkie-talkie.
the walkie-talkie where he had to extend the antenna out 48 inches to talk on it.
It gave me seeing that gave me a visceral sense memory of pulling an antenna out of a walkie-talkie like that.
Or a cordless phone. I have many cordless phones with antennas like that.
God.
Yeah, I get that's something that future generations won't understand.
Only 80s kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had to extend an antenna in I don't know how many years now.
It's been a while. They make good pointers at chalkboards and whatnot.
That's true. I've got... in one of the classrooms I taught in, there was a pointer, but it was one of the permanently extended kinds, and it had, you could mount a piece of chalk on the end of it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So anyway, then he goes and gets in the glider, which I saw on IMDb trivia, the, name and model of the glider. It's pretty cool looking. I mean...
Yeah, they did the job.
Yeah. This whole sequence is really fucking neat. The lighting in the cockpit... with blue lighting on his face and red lights kind of behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the sound of... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I really liked the 3D imaging of New York as he flew over it. I know it was 1981. This probably looked really cool in 1981. I think it still looked pretty cool in 2023 in kind of a retro way.
It absolutely does. And there's fun stuff about that. That was... shockingly, not CG. It's all this wireframe shit that you see as he's flying through the canyons of the city. That is a 10-foot by 10-foot scale model of New York, all painted matte black with glow-in-the-dark tape on the corners and a camera flying through it. Because the CG to do that shot or those shots would have cost something like $10 million fucking dollars when this movie's whole budget was $7 million.
It looks so good.
It really does. There's one little shot where you can kind of see oh, okay, I see what they did there, but it's only if you're looking for it, and it's a split fucking second.
That's really cool. They'd spend that much time on... I mean, once again, I got to put myself in a 1981 mindset. By today's standards, that is a nothing scene that you could cut and it wouldn't hurt the movie. By back then, that was probably a pretty cool piece of look how futuristic we are.
It's so fucking atmospheric too. I love the sounds in that scene where because it's a glider, there's no engine sounds or anything. So it's just kind of a whoosh.
Yeah.
It's fucking great.
It's much better than Air Force One crashing, put it that way.
Yeah, it certainly is. And another thing about the special effects on this movie, there are a whole bunch of matte paintings, specifically when people are looking from Liberty Island towards New York or whatever. Would you like to know who did those matte paintings and those shots?
Sure.
That was a little lad named Jimmy Cameron.
Oh, that Jimmy Cameron.
Yeah. Yeah,
Damn.
apparently this was one of his first movies where he was actually in charge of shit.
That guy's done some stuff.
He has some stuff we'll cover at some point.
Some stuff we have covered.
Because we watched Titanic in our special features.
I was thinking Strange Days, but yeah.
Yeah.
And Titanic. Titanic's cyberpunk as fuck.
Hell yeah. So he lands the glider on top of the World Trade Center. One of the things that I like about this is that his own, like, Van Cleef is radioing him from inside this cool futuristic control center, whatever. And it's like, Snake, how's your altitude? Blah, blah, blah. And Snake is just resolutely ignoring it.
Yeah.
Like, he's just sitting there at a desk like, Snake, what's happening? Snake! And then, like, Snake lands the glider, gets out of the glider, takes the elevator down to the 50th floor of the World Trade Center, and then it's like, I'm on the 50th floor. He's just kept him on the fucking line for however many hours.
Yeah, because he fucking hates him.
Yeah, it is hilarious.
The whole conversation between them where he's like, well, I guess I'm going in either way, so might as well do this stupid errand for you.
Yeah. Well, and at the beginning of the glider flight, Hulk says something like, we won't be able to help you when you're in there. And Snake says, so I can't count on you? And Hulk goes, no, we won't be there. And Snake goes, good.
And they kept one up, and they kept like, I can't remember anything specifically, but I remember in their like verbal sparring, like it was pretty evenly matched. Like when Hulk surprised him with the capsules in his neck, that threw Snake off, and then Snake would throw some quip that would throw Hulk off. It was, I know we've already covered that part, but I just love watching those two act against each other.
Yeah, it's so perfectly balanced.
Yeah. And the little lab tech who just kind of sitting there in between them getting ordered and bullied.
They're both such assholes.
Yeah.
Okay, so he gets to the 50th floor with 19 hours, 22 minutes on the timer. Makes it down to ground level. The street scenes have a great fucking vibe. There's just like fires and shadowy figures running around like in front of the camera. And
there was a lot of like old beer advertisements and stuff whipping in the wind, and
like a Schlitz sign hanging off a building. Yeah, and just like there's one or two shots where he's stalking down a street and then just a shadowy figure runs right in front of the fucking camera and startles you.
Yeah, there's a lot of like almost jump scares like that.
Yeah. Tracks the president's pulse to what seems to be a theater where there's a cool little musical show going on, and meets.
Sure is cool.
Yeah, it's very sexy. Where he meets our second major supporting character, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Cabby, Ernest Borgnine, taking a break from masturbating.
Probably the last time he will be on this podcast.
Honestly, I don't know. That motherfucker had like a 70-year career.
I know, but how much of that career was cyberpunk related?
Like, I would not be shocked if he shows up in some random early to mid 90s fucking B movie.
Yeah, we'll see.
Like, anyway, he was taking a break from
I've got a chalkboard on the wall.
All right.
And it says, it's been this many days since Ernest Borgnine has been on High Tech Low Life. We're putting it at 0. And we're going to see. I'm going to check it out next time he shows up.
Okay, sounds good.
And yes, he was masturbating.
Yeah.
If you haven't canon, I didn't notice that.
Oh, no. That is a reference to, it's like a fucking Fox and Friends clip. Where they're interviewing him for something. I do not remember what, because he was working up until like the end. Basically,
which wasn't that long ago, right?
Yeah. I think it was 2019, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Might have been 2020. But they're interviewing him about some movie, and the host says, "How do you stay so young?" And he says, "Well, I masturbate every day."
I do remember that. That went kind of viral when it happened. I remember that.
Like, all right, 91-year-old Ernest Borgnine cranking the hog. Cool.
Good for him.
Everybody needs a hobby.
Yeah.
And good for him.
Yeah.
So, he meets Cabby. This is the first appearance of a thing.
By the way, he looked the same age of his death in this movie 40 years ago.
He
50 years
aged.
ago.
He aged to 91 years old the minute he stopped shooting Marty in 1957 or whenever that was. So this is the first occurrence of a thing that'll pop back up in the rest of the film, and then in the next film, and then in a whole bunch of other films. I thought you were dead.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks Snake is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we find out that Snake is not just famous in military circles, as we might have guessed from Hauk, but he's apparently famous for other things.
Yeah, everybody knows who Snake is.
Yeah, doing crimes, baby. So then we get the first semblance of a fucking action scene in this movie at the 35-minute mark when some buggers show up.
That's something I wanted to bring up, actually. How slow this action movie was.
Oh, it is. It is incredibly slow. There is very little goddamn action.
And I don't think it is unique to this film. I think it was more common back then for to build tension between the action scenes.
Yeah.
And I miss that. Like, I think of like an Avengers movie where everything seems so rushed and frantic.
Well, we start with an action scene, then we have a 5-minute explanation of what happened with the action scene or whatever. Mm-hmm. Then we have another action scene.
Plus, we got to have dudes looking at the camera and saying, "Well, that happened."
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just so much time. Like, I remember when I thought of it, he was like walking down a hallway. Yeah. And like nothing was happening. He was just walking down a hallway for like a full 45 seconds or something.
Yeah. Hey, he looks cool. He's walking down a dark hallway.
Yeah. And
like, look, there's some fires in the background.
And my attention didn't wander. I was still invested. I miss that in my action movies.
Yeah. So the first semblance of action happens when some muggers show up and try and jack him for his boots, and he like elbows one.
Yeah, he does a lot of elbowing behind him.
And that's about it. Then it turns out that a crazy person has the president's tracker watch.
I feel like you're underselling this scene, which was
Mr. President.
Just glorious to watch. This guy, he comes upon some guy just hammering on some dude's head. Yeah, hunched over him, hammering on him, and you can see the arm with the watch on it. And then he throws that guy off, and then it's just this lunatic with a big beard who starts singing "Hail to the Chief."
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It's a great scene.
So
and he calls Hauk and lets Hauk hear him sing "Hail to the Chief."
Yeah. So then he goes back to the pot, and Hauk says, "Fuck off. We need that tape. I don't care, dead or not. Make sure he's dead, and we need that tape anyway."
Yeah.
So then
I forgot to mention this when Hauk talks about the tape and the president and why they need to rescue him. Like, they ramped the stakes up so quickly.
Yeah.
In like one sentence. It went from the president needs to be rescued, which is pretty high stakes too. And if you don't, the world's going to end in nuclear fire.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
That's
right. What we're dealing with.
Yeah.
I love it.
That sounds like the 80s. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, that's what we were all worried about. So
pretty much. So Snake heads back to the pod and then has a sit and a think.
Yeah.
So he's sitting on a chair, and then some dude kind of runs down the street and bonks on a manhole cover, and then bonks on another one. And then a thing that he was warned about back in the loading up scene The crazies, who live underground, and you're not supposed to go underground, start coming out.
Yeah, so they're like a gang, right?
A gang slash, I don't know, mutants.
Mutant, yeah.
I don't think it really matters. They're a swarm. They're ghouls in Shadowrun terms.
Yeah, they are kind of ghouls. Halloweeners.
We find out pretty shortly that it's the end of the month, so they're out of food. So they came out to hunt.
And they eat people.
Yeah, he takes refuge in an abandoned chock full of nuts, and
Yeah.
then meets his wife.
Is that his real wife?
Yeah, that's Season Hubley, the mother of his first child.
Oh, how sweet.
Yeah. Apparently, I saw something, I think on IMDb trivia, that this was like she had given birth like 3 months beforehand. So she and their first son, Boston, I think is his name, were on set all the time in St. Louis. So they'd like be doing some weird fucking action scene and then look over and she's like breastfeeding her son.
Oh.
Yeah.
Also, don't ever forget that his stepson is a Dawson's Creek alum.
That's true.
Never forget the Kurt Russell Dawson's Creek connection.
Yes.
Unfortunately, a shitty Dawson's Creek alum, but hey, he was on there for...
Yeah. Oh, Eddie.
R.I.P. Eddie.
Yeah.
He died in the show.
He did.
We assume.
Yeah. No, he went to his writing thing in California and became Milo Ventimiglia and then came on to Gilmore Girls. It was a weird...
He shrank about 8 inches, if that happened.
Yeah, that's probably true. He meets a woman in chock full of nuts. She says, don't worry about it. Well, so long as we're quiet, they won't find us. She tries to get him to take her with him because A, she recognizes him, and B, she gets out of him that he's here to rescue the president and has a way out.
Yeah, he's not keeping that fat close to his vest.
No.
One thing I like about Snake Plissken, this is not a stealth run.
No, he does not give a shit.
I feel like he's like, well, if I do it, I do it. If I die, oh, well, I'm in hell anyway. What couldn't be worse?
Yeah, who gives a shit? And this scene is really perfectly constructed. It's like really well done, where he's creeping towards the back of this chock full of nuts, and like there's one shot of like some rats running across the floor, and then he steps on a spot and it like collapses under him. Mm-hmm. And then he walks on and talks to this lady, and then she makes a little bit too much sound when she's like, no, we can get out of here. It'll be great. I'll fucking suck your dick.
Basically, yeah.
And she starts making noise, and then suddenly she is dragged under the floor by the crazies, which we had, Chekhov's weak floor.
Yeah.
And there's like
foreshadowed to perfection.
Everything is there. All the pieces are there, but there's no way to put them together until it happens.
Yeah, and she gets sucked down quick.
Yeah,
he tries to help her. He reaches, but when he realizes it's a lost cause, he doesn't have two thoughts about leaving her behind.
No, he fucking bails. And then there's this run up and through the building and
cool little parkour.
Yeah.
1981 style parkour.
Yeah.
He loses the walkie-talkie. It falls and breaks.
Yeah. Finally sees Cabby in his cab. That's Ernst Borgnine. Yeah, it's great. Cabby throws a Molotov cocktail at the crazies who are in pursuit and is jabbering about how you don't want to be in the Bowery at night. Like this time they'll have you stripped for dead in 10 seconds.
I was only here to see the show.
I've been a cab driver for this city for 30 years. I'd never come down here at night except to see the show.
Him being there specifically to see the show leads me to believe that show had some type of marketing that got out to wherever he stayed. Cabby likes a musical number.
Yeah, why wouldn't he? So, it is at this point that Kurt Russell holds a gun to Cabby's head, and after Cabby says, "What are you doing in town, Snake? I hardly knew you were alive," and blah, blah, blah. And Snake says, "I'm looking for someone." And then he holds a gun to Cabby's head, and Cabby says, "Who? I know everybody." And it turns out that the Duke of New York, number one, has the president. Everybody knows that. This is the first mention of the Duke at 46 minutes.
Yeah, another fantastic character, fantastically casted, fantastically acted. You there?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I muted it for a second for a cough, and then, sorry.
No problem.
So, yeah, the first mention of the Duke, which when I was making my notes, I thought I nearly typed intro of protagonist at 46 minutes, and then I realized, no, that's entirely wrong. The protagonist for this movie is Hauk and the establishment.
You mean antagonist?
What did I say? Protagonist?
Protagonist.
Yeah, the antagonist.
Right. The Duke.
The Duke is a sub-antagonist at best.
He's a bad guy, but he's not the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
in fact, I kind of liked his plan. I kind of thought if it wasn't for the impending nuclear apocalypse, I kind of thought Snake should have just went along with the Duke's plan.
Yeah, I agree.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we really are. So, Cabby takes him to meet up with Brain and Maggie. Brain's at the public library because Brain knows the Duke. He's somebody that Brain makes gas and figures things out, so he's got a direct connection to the Duke. Adrienne Barbeau, this is just a little personal bit, has always slightly scared me.
Possibly, she's intimidating.
Yeah, possibly I saw this movie in like 1982 or something, and my brain wasn't fully formed enough. But I have literally always found her slightly frightening, even though looking at her, I mean, she's an attractive lady, but I find her threatening.
She's a powerful perm.
Yeah, she does. I think she was John Carpenter's wife at this point in time.
Oh. I found out she was gifted to Brain, which is great.
Yeah, which is wonderful and normal, right?
Yeah.
And then we find out that Snake has some history with Brain. Brain's name is Harold.
Yeah.
And he betrayed Snake and was it Tucson Jim or something like that?
Oh, yeah. The Reno Joe, something like that.
Yeah.
I loved the alluded to backstory that could be its own movie, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what was it? God damn it. I wish I could remember it. But yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
Some southwestern city and one
Texaco Pete.
Yeah, something like that. I wanted to see this guy because if these are the two we're dealing with, what's the third in their little trio?
There's they shot a scene of the bank robbery that the Federal Reserve Depository robbery that Snake was imprisoned for.
Oh, really?
It is not a good scene.
Okay.
It was apparently the first scene, like it was going to be the first scene in the movie. And I saw it years and years and years ago on, like, if you remember the, 5-minute period in the mid to late 90s where some VHS tapes had special features on them.
Right, yeah.
They had it on one of these tapes, and I actually looked it up the other day online, and it is bad. But it's this 10-minute long sequence of him, it fucking sucks. I totally see why they took it out of the movie. It's slow and it's boring, and it's just like Snake walking around, and he's in it looks like safety deposit boxes, and he's in a workman's outfit, and there's this weird little robot thing rolling around, and then he takes off, an alarm goes off, and then him and his partner get captured on a train. It's really, it would have dropped this movie down hugely in quality had they kept it in. It was an incredibly smart cut.
Oh, good.
Like, it works so much better if Snake's backstory is just this alluded to fucking weirdness and robbery and
Oh yeah, definitely.
right, yeah.
I mean, so many. Like, think of Han Solo. Think of all the
Yeah.
cool protagonists like that. The
Vlad
alluded
Taltosh.
to backs. I don't want to see, and that's a lot of things are like Disney's really fucking up Star Wars because I don't want to see the Kessel Run.
Yeah.
I just want to know it's this weird fucking thing that he did in 12 parsecs or whatever,
Yeah. Who cares?
and let my brain fill it in.
Yeah.
I also want to take this point to stop and just have a little Harry Dean Stanton appreciation time because
I'm always happy to have that.
I fucking love that guy.
He is, I mean, he is one of that handful of actors where every time, like, he, without fail, if a movie has Harry Dean Stanton in it, it immediately gains a fucking letter grade. Like,
Amen.
you want to watch whatever the fuck Harry Dean Stanton is doing. Like, you know, it is a very small collection of actors who are like that, where he just immediately improves a movie. And, you know, if he's in a 3-minute scene, that might be a better movie than what we're watching, but we're happy to just see the one scene.
Right. Do you think he'll make another appearance on our podcast? I hope so.
Oh yeah, he absolutely will. Repo Man.
Okay, I was just looking at his IMDb. Repo Man sounds like a cyberpunk.
It is.
Repo Man.
It is. I would say it is approximately. There's maybe a little more cyberpunk than this. Again, it's cyberpunk via vibes more than, you know, more than cyber.
Yeah.
But
he's also an alien, which isn't cyberpunk, but we might be able to squeeze it in.
I mean, him and fucking goddamn it, shit, can't think of his name. He was the chief on Homicide, and Harry Dean Stanton's like buddy in Alien.
Can picture, don't know the name.
He's fucking space black. Yeah, I would happily watch that. Like, I would happily watch an entire TV series of those two just going about their jobs on Alien.
Anyway, Harry Dean Stanton rules, as does most of the actors in this film. Let's just keep going.
Yeah. So it turns out that...
one more thing. Wasn't Harry Dean Stanton was it on a podcast or on a radio show, right? This was probably like 5 years before he died. He was just not taking any shit, but yet he was also being hilarious on it. I can't remember what it was. I heard him in an interview,
like him.
And it was hilarious because he was old and they were kind of making fun of him, but he was also like somehow keeping up with them. Oh, I wish I could remember what it was so I could look it up.
I totally buy that. I don't have any specific memory of it, but yeah.
It might have been like fucking Opie and Anthony or some dumb bullshit from the...
It's entirely possible.
From the 20 teens. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and he has an oil derrick in the background of this library scene. Just bumping away.
Because he's making gas.
Yeah, he's making gas. So we find out that the Duke has a plan to take everybody out of here with the president in the lead. They're going to go over the 69th Street Bridge, which is not a bridge that exists. Because
It should, though. Let's be honest. It should.
Yeah, up top. Because A, we're going to have the president in the lead, and B, Brain has a diagram of all the mines on the bridge.
Right.
So
very accurate diagram.
I think, honestly, it is a very accurate diagram. I think he was just holding it upside down when we get to that part. So Snake's like, well, I got a better idea. What if I take you guys and the president the fuck out of here? And Harry Dean Stanton's like, okay, don't shoot me. So they leave, and right as they're leaving, the Duke arrives. And in maybe the funniest bit of open comedy in this movie, they're walking out of the public library across the street, and Cabby hears the sound of engines on the soundtrack, and he says, That's the Duke. I know the sound of his engines. And Harry Dean Stanton, Adrian Barbeau, and Kurt Russell are like, well, what the fuck do we do? And we're standing here in the middle of the street. And then in the background, you just see Cabby taking off to his cab, just running.
Yeah.
And then his cab drives around the corner, and they're like, shit, he abandoned us.
Cabby knows what's up.
Yeah. Can't betray the Duke to his face. He'll know.
Yeah.
So then they steal a station wagon from the Cabby's dudes because Cabby's trying to get the diagram from Duke's.
I feel like we need to describe Duke's car.
Oh, yeah, I guess this is the first physical introduction of Duke.
Yeah, and Duke is something else.
He is Isaac Hayes in, I think, undoubtedly his best movie role. I mean, like, best acting role.
Unless you count Chef from South Park, but yeah.
I don't know if that's... anyway.
I don't think that was better acting, no. He'd be more famous for it, though, probably.
Yeah, probably. He has a fucking cowboy hat with a feather on it. He's wearing a 1870s U.S. Army officer's vest with tails and epaulets. And his car is like 1978 Cadillac with chandeliers on the fenders and a fucking stink bug stance.
Stink bug stance? What's that?
Yeah, where the front end is down low to the ground and the back end is all jacked up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that, but yeah, I get it.
He's got Ramiro in the car because Ramiro rules. Why wouldn't you have him around all
Ramiro
the time?
is his Salacious Crumb.
Yes, and his right-hand man.
Yeah. He literally laughs like Salacious Crumb at one point.
Yeah. In fact, 1981, Salacious Crumb laughs like Ramiro.
That's true. Yeah, I guess he predates Salacious Crumb. If you're not a real Star Wars nerd, that's the little rat creature that hangs out with Jabba the Hutt.
The Kowakian monkey lizard.
Yeah, the greatest character in the Star Wars franchise.
Yeah, Bib Fortuna's best friend.
Yes. Oh, the buddy comedy of Jabba, Bib, and Salacious just doing crimes.
Yeah.
That's the extended universe shit I want to see. I would take an entire season of just Jabba's palace shenanigans, though. 100%.
You know, Guillermo del Toro was signed up to do a fucking Jabba the Hutt movie.
Oh, fuck me, dude. I would break my Star Wars fast to go back for.
Yeah, I would love that.
Man.
Like, do that, and then maybe Diego Luna would get to finally touch Jabba. He just wants to touch Jabba. He's just look. He's the way he looks.
I agree. I completely understand, and I want to touch
Jabba.
Like when he pulls Leia and she like flops back and leans into him, it looks comfortable.
Yeah. If only I could touch Jabba.
Anyway, we are not going to hit our tight 90, so we should.
No, sadly.
Hustle.
Okay, so they steal a station wagon. They take off. They go down
We need to
Broadway.
hustle a lot because we're at our tight 90 right now.
Yeah. They go down Broadway. A bunch of people are throwing and like shooting arrows, throwing shit and shooting arrows at them. They crash through a fucking wall.
Broadway has degraded a little bit.
A little bit. But they get to where Brain knows the president is, which is a disused subway siding. And there's a big long line of fucking subway cars. Brain and Maggie are going to go distract the guards while Snake sneaks around to where the president is and releases him. So Brain is going on and back and forth with these guards. Snake sneaks in, gets crossbowed in the leg, kills a couple of dudes, grabs the president. The president is chained up and not in good shape.
At this point, when I was watching it, that's when my wife chimed in. She's like, wow, how cool to have a president so young and spry as this guy.
I love Donald Pleasance. Fucking complete. Apparently, okay, so Donald Pleasance, he had previously worked with John Carpenter in Halloween. Mm-hmm. He's the I can't remember the name of him, the doctor from the mental institution. And John Carpenter was like, "Yeah, I want you to play the president." And Donald Pleasance, being a British guy, was like, "Oh well, I don't know how I can do that," and came up with like a 15-page backstory about how, well, Maggie Thatcher and Ronald Reagan get married, and the U.S. is reabsorbed into the British Empire, and so on and so forth, and that explains why I have this accent. And handed John Carpenter this document when he showed up for filming to justify his character. And John Carpenter was like, "Cool, man. All right, none of that's going in the movie. Just talk however you want." Because John Carpenter's great, and he doesn't give a shit. And honestly, it doesn't, like, he hardly even sounds that British. It's like some mid-century received pronunciation thing, just like a movie star accent in the 50s.
I didn't notice it until you pointed it out. Yeah, he hardly spoke at all. I mean, yeah.
So then they're leaving. They get captured by the Duke, and maybe slightly kind of betrayed by Brain a bit. I don't know. It's kind of unclear.
Yeah, Brain. That's the thing. Nobody's really betraying anybody. They're just looking out for themselves.
Yeah.
Because they're in a fucking hell on earth open air prison.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? So
is Red Dawn cyberpunk? Sorry, I'm still going through Harry Dean Stanton's.
No, definitely not.
Damn it.
I mean, it's not a movie that I would object to watching on our Patreon.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see. This is more Romero being a damn freak. Like, just looking fucking weird and, like, doing this weird posing shit. Like, every move he makes is insane and perfect.
Yeah, he steals the show when he's on camera.
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing to do from Kurt Russell.
Yeah, no shit. Especially Kurt Russell fucking 1981.
Yeah.
Like, there's about an 8-year period where it is very difficult to get the camera off of Kurt Russell.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Isaac Hayes knocks Snake out after attempting to interrogate him, and he doesn't say anything. So knocks Snake out. We get some, like, we cut to Liberty Island where they're trying to figure out what's going on. Maybe Snake's dead. We don't, Lee Van Cleef doesn't know. Snake wakes up with 12 and a half hours left on the clock. At this point, the Duke is doing kind of the William Tell thing around the president, who's tied to the wall. Briefcase opens. Ramiro checks it out, grabs the tape, being weird again.
Yeah.
And at this point, a chopper doing patrols over the city gets flagged down in Central Park by a bunch of fucking weirdos who then run off. The troops walk over to a car and get the briefcase with Snake's goggles, night vision goggles in it, with some
Which
shit
he never
jammed in
once
them.
used.
No, he did not. I assume that was a cut scene, maybe?
Possibly, yeah, makes sense.
So they take this as basically proof that Plissken's dead. And they're about to send a strike team in to attempt to rescue the president and probably get everybody killed. And then Snake fights a big dude in a wrestling ring.
Pretty cool fight.
It is. It starts with ball bats.
It goes to show how little was required of a fight scene.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is like every fucking action scene in this movie is honestly terrible.
Yeah. By today's standards.
From even like a 1995
by early 90s standards.
Yeah. Yeah,
but it's still compelling. It looked like a fight. It looked like two fucking guys fighting for real. Think of like Star Wars lightsaber battles. That looked like two guys trying to kill each other with swords, not two guys dancing with swords. Yeah. So I have no hate in it. This big guy was just swinging away with his baseball bat at Kurt Russell.
Yeah. Yeah, round 1 is ball bats. Round 2 is you get a shield made of a trash can lid and a bat with nails in it.
Yeah, looked like they puncture right through that lid in one swing.
Yeah. And while he's doing this, Brain and Maggie have decided they're better off if they get the president and then take the glider, because they've figured out that the glider is parked on top of the World Trade.
Right. Well, because Snake told them, because Snake does not know how to keep his fucking mouth shut.
Yeah, that's true. At this point, we learned that Ramiro has Cabby's hat on, and he, quote, traded for it.
Yeah, that's not going to come up later.
Yeah. Then as they're doing the rescue, by the way, the most competent action star in this film is Maggie, as she fucking blows away 3 dudes in like a second and a half.
Yeah, she's badass.
And Brain stabs Ramiro in the guts, and he even dies funny.
Continuing the cyberpunk traditions of ultra-capable, badass ladies.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. Huh. I wonder if she's a direct influence on Molly. I bet she is.
I mean, if this movie influenced him as much, it would definitely lead to believe that she has some influence on Molly. Yeah. Because I can see Molly vibes all throughout her.
Yeah. So Snake kills the giant dude that he's fighting with 1 hour, 34 minutes left on the timer, and activates the tracer bracelet that he had been given at the beginning, which the big dude happened to be wearing.
They were just, you could just see that all of Snake's shit had just kind of been filtered out to everybody.
Yeah. Because the president was doing the like William Tell thing with Snake's gun and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. The big dude was wearing the timer bracelet. One of the guys in the crowd was wearing the tracer bracelet.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So that lets the Liberty Island people know that Snake's alive. That Snake's alive. And then everybody, including Snake, chases Brain and Maggie and the president to the World Trade Center.
Blowing up like the World Trade.
I have been thinking that exact line nonstop.
Written before 2001, by the way.
Yep. Creepily, when I was sweeping the floors fucking September 15, 2001. Whatever it was. Mopping, maybe? I don't remember.
Is that an ICP song or a Twisted song? I don't even remember.
Twisted.
Oh, man. You got to be a real fucking nerd to be a Twisted listener.
That was on that fucking bootleg mixtape that we got at the concert.
Good. I miss you. Hatchet Man Records from the 90s, whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
Psychopathic Records. That's what it was.
Yeah. Hey, Jay's out there doing the fucking Lord's work for his daughter, who is a furry.
Yeah. Jay seems like a pretty cool guy. They all seem like cool guys.
Yeah. I mean, they're clearly idiots, but they're fucking doing their best, man.
Yeah.
Trying to increase the love. That's all.
Exactly.
Okay, so I assume there was a cutscene explaining how Snake, even though he left the auditorium after everybody, was like second in line.
Yeah.
To get up to the top of the World Trade and then back down to the bottom of the World Trade. So it turns out
there was some funky movement shenanigans happening there.
Yeah.
Plus, he climbed the stairs of the World Trade Center like 4 times over the course of this movie.
Yes.
One time with a gimp leg.
Yes. Twice with a gimp leg. Once up, once down.
Oh, yeah. Dude's got to be tired. Like, he's getting his steps in tonight. That's for sure.
He really is. So gets up to the roof. Maggie, the Brain, the president are up there. There are a bunch of fucking crazies who end up pushing the glider off, which then falls down. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his plan was to begin with that. So,
well, that was the whole point of the World Trade Center. Get in the glider, and then it's got enough of a drop off
that he could arc it up
to where you could get enough wind to take off and get back to Jersey or Liberty Island, whatever. So that doesn't work. They get back down
very quickly.
Very quickly. Well, at this point, getting back down, he knows how the elevator works.
Yeah, but it only goes down to like 55th
50.
floor or something.
Yeah, they still have to go down 50.
Yeah.
I assume that Harry Dean Stanton and Maggie climbed all the way up on their own.
You ever climbed like 5 sets of stairs in a parking garage and been like
Yes.
just out of breath?
Yep. Yep, 100%.
Now times that times 10 and do it 4 times.
Okay, so they get back down to the ground floor where Brain parked his car right next to the stairs.
Yeah.
Um,
You could
They
do
go
that
to-
when New York is an open air prison.
yeah, they go to get in the car and it's not starting, which is weird because you kind of hear it running. Not important. Don't worry about it.
You know what type of car Brain's car was?
I do not. I was trying to figure that. I'm guessing a Fiat of some sort.
It
Like
really reminded me of my friend Preston's car that we drove in high school that we affectionately termed, I believe that was the Rusted Cunt. I think it was the same type, and that was a Datsun or something.
I would totally believe it to be a Datsun. Yeah.
Looked very similar.
Yeah, a real piece of shit compact.
Yeah, real piece of shit.
mid to late 70s compact. So you kind of hear the engine, but it's not running. So Snake gets out, looks under the hood, and a guy pops out with a crossbow, which is
Yeah.
hilarious.
Awesome.
Then we cut over to the Duke standing behind the running engine on a stand. Which I guess the whole point was just to prank them, like think the car was fine.
I guess.
It's another bit of like absurd comedy.
They just pulled the engine out.
So Snake shoots the engine next to the Duke. A bunch of steam goes out. They all run off. They turns out the cabbie's right outside. They jump into cabbie's cab. Exactly. Snake. Who they grabbed the Harry Dean Stanton grabbed the tape. Okay. So Harry Dean Stanton knew that Cabbie had traded his cap for the tape. Cape's in the cab, or tape's in the cab. Sorry. They check the tape. It's some guy talking about nuclear fusion. We don't know. Whatever. Who cares? Snake's driving. We got to get to the bridge. Okay. We've affirmed that Cabbie has the tape with 23 minutes left on the timer. They do a cool ramp onto the bridge. The Duke is in pursuit in his car. He also ramps onto the bridge.
Also, another thing my wife pointed out, as Kurt Russell, Snake, is driving, he's got his finger on the trigger of his little revolver, and then the rest of his hand wrapped around the steering wheel, and like the revolver's like pointed at Cabbie. It very much reminded me of the scene from Pulp Fiction where
Marvin
meets his untimely end.
Yes.
But and then he's just hitting these massive bumps, and he's just got his finger on the trigger. Just, but no, nothing bad happens.
That does remind me. As soon as when they get in the elevator at the top of the World Trade Center to go back down with everybody, right after the glider gets pushed off, you can for a split second see fingertips on the outside of the elevator doors, where the crew members were like pushing the elevator door shut. It's like just a split second. If I hadn't been looking at that exact spot on the screen, like I would never have noticed it, but it was clearly that. Very funny.
Love it. Movies used to be movies, man.
Goddamn right. None of this fucking Starbucks cup on a stage in Game of Thrones. It was fingers moving doors.
Yeah.
Okay, so they go onto the bridge. Harry Dean Stanton is directing, to some extent, Snake.
Snake is half listening, it sounds like.
Half listening. Hits a mine. It kills Cabbie. Brain says, I said, jog right, you asshole.
Cuts the cab cleanly in half.
Yeah. Snake's got the tape. President, Maggie, Brain, and Snake are okay. They go running. It's at this point that I think we find out that either Brain's diagram is wrong or Brain is holding the diagram upside down, because he says, go left around a pile of cars. Everybody else goes right. Brain goes left and gets blown up.
Yeah. Poor Brain.
Yeah.
Too good for this world. R.I.P.
Yeah. And then Snake is like, come on, we gotta go. And Maggie's like, no, I'm going to stay here and shoot at the Duke, because at this point we see the Duke coming.
Yeah.
And we've learned she is the most combat effective person.
Yeah, really. If you need somebody to watch your back, you want Maggie doing it.
So she stays there with Brain's body, shoots a bunch at the Duke. Duke's car blows up, but kills Maggie at the same time.
Like, destroys her.
Yeah, obliterates her. Which
blasts through her torso.
An interesting piece of trivia for this, a name we probably, like off the top of my head, I can't think of we would need on this show again. Okay, so apparently J.J. Abrams' dad was a film executive, and J.J. Abrams, at the age of like 15 or 13
J.J. Abrams is a Nepo baby? No.
Yeah, shocking. He saw an early test screening of this and apparently said to John Carpenter, like, did Maggie actually die? Because we don't see it.
True.
Because so then...
But she gets hit hard.
Yeah, she gets fucking obliterated. So then after that screening, Carpenter and Adrienne Barbeau go to their garage and shoot the shot of her like lying fucking obliterated on the ground.
Oh, really? Just so we know.
Yeah. So yeah, that's J.J. Abrams doing, I don't know, being like a Forrest Gump or something.
Yeah. Thanks, J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. So we're running to the wall. Let's see. I think. Okay, so we're just at the wall. We cut to outside the wall. There's 1 minute and 32 seconds on the timer.
Yeah.
There is a Jeep winch with like a line going down for rescue. The president gets up on top of the wall. The Duke shoots at Snake. Snake like dives off the wall. Then as Snake beats him up, then runs back to the wall and the harness and gets partway up before the winch stops. And it turns out the president stopped the winch at the top of the wall and completely fucking loses it and shoots the Duke.
Yeah. Now, I'm not a big fan of state violence, but I was kind of cheering the president in this moment. He went through some shit.
Yeah. You're a number one! He's just screaming like crazy. Shoots obliterates the Duke, and then lets Snake up. Cronenberg zaps Snake as soon as he hands the tape over to Hulk.
Yeah, last second zapping.
Yeah. And then we cut to the president about to go live on video to the summit. He's getting shaved and kind of cleaned up. Mm-hmm. And Snake, he says, "Thank you for saving me. Thank you for saving me. Anything I can do, you let me know." And Snake says something about, "What do you think all those lives cost to save you? I wasn't the only one.
A lot of good people died back there."
Yeah. And the president's like, well, of course, they are the real heroes. And Snake flicks a cigarette and walks away.
Yeah, he like in a almost a spitting at his feet motion.
Yeah. Then
I don't give a fuck about your president.
Yeah.
Or your war.
So he's walking away. Hulk's leaning against the wall, smoking a cigarette. And Hulk tries to recruit him, like, we could do some cool shit together. Like, we could have a whole fucking franchise, man.
We could. It could be Escape from New York Cinematic Universe.
We do crazy bullshit rescue attempts and nonsense. It'd be great. Come on, Snake, come with me. And Snake says, "The name's Plissken." and just walks away, lighting another cigarette. Then we cut to the president live on TV, or live to the summit, saying like, I hope this will inspire peace in our lifetimes, and hits play on the tape, and it's...
Yeah.
Exactly. Cuts to Snake walking away and smoking and unspooling the real tape.
Yep.
Ending the great hope for the world.
For those Gen Zers, tape is actually like this plastic stuff that's all spooled up inside. Oh, you know, you're not that stupid.
Yeah, come on.
Pretty stupid though.
Pretty stupid. So anyway, this movie is not cyberpunk at all, except for literally the entire vibe of the main character.
Yeah, it's definitely punk.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of cyber, but you know, I mean, there's some tech. It's not necessarily in the body, but there's definitely some.
I mean, the injected explosives, that's a thing. Sure.
Yeah, the tracking devices, you know, I mean, the glider, it's definitely close enough, especially with what you've mentioned about Bill Gibson being so inspired. It definitely belongs on this show because, as we've said in the beginning, I would like to do some older films and stories that led to cyberpunk, some older sci-fi stuff and this definitely counts as that, apparently.
Yeah. And also it's one of the greatest movies of all time. I mean,
sure. Yeah.
For all its flaws, like it's crazy slow. The action scenes are barely action scenes by modern standards.
It's almost a horror movie.
Yeah. It fucking works. Like every single decision made for this movie works 100%.
Yeah, it's very tight. It's slow. It's kind of like Ghost in the Shell, where it makes use of its slow bits really well.
You spend like over the course of the movie probably 20 minutes just walking down the streets of this dystopic city. You know.
Real quick, speaking of Ghost in the Shell, it's going to be in theaters in a couple weeks. We should probably go. Yeah, it's like a one-day only run. They're doing like one anime a month. That's one. There's another one that I thought is kind of cyberpunk too at the end of the run.
Ooh, sweet.
I'm definitely going to try to go, but
yeah, let's go. Let's make it a night.
I don't know how we can incorporate that into this show, but I feel like it should happen.
I don't know. Maybe I should get one of those recorders and we can sneak it in.
Just bootleg Ghost in the Shell. And then commentary over the top of it. Oh, they'd love us in there for that.
They would love it. Yeah, I am definitely into that idea.
I think it's like the 11th or something. It's not far away.
Okay.
Anyway, I think this movie was fantastic. I got no complaints. I would like to sit, like, one of the few regrets I have about not having kids is being able to show them,
kids this shit.
Yeah, being able to show them the movie Kids. No.
Yeah.
No, just to see how young people would react when they get used to the way things are.
Yeah, I
like they'd probably be bored.
Don't know. Yeah. That's what I hear from people I know of who have kids. Like they're just what we ancient people would call MTV cutting has completely like fucked them for watching older movies.
It's a shame because I miss it so much, and I like that shit too. Like, I like some modern movies. Like, but I love the slow stuff. Like, that's why I like Blade Runner 2049 so much, because it's slow and plotting, and the things everybody complains about are my favorite parts. And it makes me think, am I broken? Like, what's wrong with me that I like this shit?
Yeah.
I love Andor. Andor doesn't have lightsaber fights or gun battles, and that's what makes it good.
Well, I don't want to spend an hour talking about Andor, but instead I'll just say it's great. Fight me.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, best Star Wars in I don't know how many decades.
Maybe ever.
Possibly ever. I mean, honestly, that Stellan Skarsgård monologue, that might be the best piece of cinema of all time.
I don't know if I go that far, but it's definitely real, and it's technically cinema if it's for Disney Plus. Okay. All right. So we gotta rate this bitch. We are well over our time limit, which is par for the course for us.
Yes.
So, let me write this down. Escape from NYC. Let's see. Story. I love the classic 1980s. We got to rescue the president.
It's fucking simple but effective.
Yeah.
How are you going to argue with that? That's
How many
like
video games had that as the plot? And probably yes, exactly. Probably ripped off directly from this movie. So, I can't give it a top score because it is a little basic, but I'm gonna give it a strong 8.
Yeah, I'd say 7.5. I mean, like that's honestly, you gotta rescue the president is one of the Aristotelian plot lines, like man versus machine, man versus man, man versus rescuing the president.
I agree completely, and I especially like this because he rescued the president, but he doesn't particularly care for the president or what he represents. So that was cool. Also very cyberpunk. Let's go with influence. As we've discussed,
Hugely this is like a 10 on influence.
I don't know if I want to give it a 10. I want to give it I think it's got to stay under Neuromancer for.
Okay, 9.5.
But 9 or 9.5 sounds fair. I'm going to go 9, but you can go 9.5.
Like, I think as far as movies look, this is as close to a 10 as it gets.
Right, I'm going to go 9.5 as well.
Yeah.
It's influenced tons of cinema and the genre of cyberpunk as we know it.
And also, I mean, we have not yet mentioned the fact that, one of the greatest video games of all time was directly influenced by this. Metal Gear. The character's named Snake for a fucking reason.
That's true.
Also,
you think the original Metal Gear is one of the greatest video games of all time, or Metal Gear Solid? Which one are you thinking of?
I don't know. Any of them. Doesn't matter. Who cares?
Some of them are really bad.
Are they?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
One in particular is like one of the worst video games. But the original was a very
ruled,
like kind of a complex game for its time, for a time when mostly only kids were playing video games.
Also, we have not mentioned, but should, John Carpenter, we hadn't talked enough about how much John Carpenter rules. He rules. He composed the music for this movie, as well as writing the script and directing it. So he very specifically has been asked numerous times, and Hideo Kojima, the guy who created the Metal Gear games, has said this was directly from Escape from New York. And the character's name is Snake for a reason. At some point in the games, he uses Plissken as a nom de plume.
Now I'm thinking Plissken is like one of the generals or something.
Possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember. I played Metal Gear Solid a long time ago, but damn.
Oh yeah, that's been so long ago. So, and John Carpenter, like, when somebody asked him about it once upon a time, like, do you think he should give you credit? And John Carpenter was like, no, man, he makes pretty good video games. Who cares?
Yeah.
Well, on the other hand, like 10 years ago, there was a movie called Lockout. I can't remember the name of the directors, but it starred Guy Pearce. And it had effectively Snake Plissken going to rescue the president's daughter on a prison in orbit. And John Carpenter sued the shit out of them for stealing Escape from New York. So...
Well, good for him.
Yeah. Funny movie. Watched it this week.
Okay, let's do prescience. Now, obviously, New York has not been turned into a prison. However, as we stated, this movie feels like it's a possible future in about 5 years, every year since 1981.
Yeah, could be any day now that I think make that declaration.
I think the prescience should have like a strong 7, personally.
Yeah, I think that is fair. And I mean, hell, you listen to the conservatives. I mean, this has already happened in every major Democrat-run city in the United States.
True. So 7 or 9 if you watch a lot of Fox News.
Or if you're on a city's Reddit.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen that on the Kansas City Reddit, but boy, there are some truly hilarious posts on there.
Yeah, I follow it. It's a pit. And then oftentimes it's just really boring, like people asking for the best barbecue for the 3,000th time in a row.
Yeah, I've specifically seen people asking about like, what about this neighborhood? And it's like 5 blocks from my house, and other people are responding with, "No, you'll die there. You
Yeah.
will die." I'm like, I literally walk my dogs down the street every
Yeah, I know.
day.
It's
Like,
Westport. Don't go to Westport after dark or you will be murdered. It's like,
yeah,
no, some people have been killed there, but that's usually from pre-existing fights they were having. Like, there's not a lot of random murders in Westport.
come on, Leewood nerds, fucking buck up.
Yeah. No shit. Anyway, that's a little Kansas City talk for you.
Yeah, sorry.
Were you going with 7 for prescience or higher?
I would go 7.5 just simply because, if nothing else, people believe that it has happened.
Yeah, I agree. This is now we get to the most fluid category of all, where our ratings are all over the place, and that is style. I have a hard time not giving it a very high score for style, even though it's just kind of a drab, dreary.
It's so perfectly. I'm going to go 8.5 because it's perfectly post-apocalyptic. Everybody's doing some weird bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, if nothing else, any given character in any scene has like a weird hat on.
Yeah. Think of all the, like, what were they called in the newest Mad Max, like the War Boys? Like, they all were based off of Romero, basically, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, that's why, like, the combination of Ramiro and then Snake with his eye patch.
No,
like,
the eye patch, which is never once mentioned, explained. Nobody cares. It's just there, and that's why it's a perfect
why would you give a
accoutrement.
shit? Yeah, it's perfect.
I'm going 9. You go 8.5. I think both are fair. And then as far as our 1 to 5 hand raiser scale, I'll just give it a 5.
This is a 5, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which surprisingly, we don't have many 5s.
No, we really don't. This movie is, like I said, like we were talking about an hour and a half ago, magic.
Yeah, there's some magic in this film. Casting, the set design, the music, absolutely music. I don't feel like we've talked enough about how good it is.
Yeah.
The Duke theme, I loved it so much.
Oh, I actually have an anecdote about the music.
All right, well, we're going to close on this then because we got to bounce.
Yeah, that sounds right. Okay, so probably 15 years ago, I went to a fancy French restaurant with my wife here in town. I
bet I could name it.
I cannot remember the name of it, but you probably could. They had a piano player. I was and it was one of those piano players who was taking requests. Like, you write down the name of, what you want to hear, and you put it down and he'll play it. I was initially disappointed because I wrote down Warren Zevon, not Werewolves of London. He played Werewolves of London.
Boo.
Then,
I mean, good song, but boo.
Yeah. Then I requested Escape from New York theme. And about 5 minutes later, as I am enjoying my coq au vin, I want to say, I hear ding, 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 da-da-ding, ding, 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 da-da-ding, ding, ding.
This wasn't an organ or a synth. It was a plain old piano.
It was an honest-to-God grand piano.
Nice.
And it was incredible.
Awesome.
I was like, this guy is getting all the tips.
That dude probably lives for moments like that when he can play something weird and out there.
Yeah.
And what a better accompaniment for a coq au vin.
Yeah.
All right. That does it for not Gangs of New York, Escape from New York. And put it on the shelf. We finished.
Yeah. I don't know, man. There's too much good shit.
Yeah, it would have been a fun one to do for the Patreon, except for the fact that I hadn't really fully seen it all, and I wanted to digest it without having to crack wise over the top of it. So
yeah, if we ever just need something to put on the Patreon from this point forward, I mean, because this is a fun movie.
Yeah, we could always rewatch it for
Yeah.
sure. I would not feel bad about that at all.
Yeah.
Maybe give it a little bit of time before we do that, but
Yeah, obviously.
Hey everybody, just jumping in here to say that even though we had settled on it beforehand, we completely neglected to mention that next week's project will be Elysium, the 2013 Matt Damon romp. Sure, maybe it's a romp. Yeah, watch that if you want to join us next week and go over it. Bye.
All right, guys, check us out. Go to our Linktree /hightechlowlife. It's got everything for this podcast. Plus, there's a link to a place where you can leave us a voice message, and we like them. We like hearing your voices.
Yeah, it's very cool, and not just on the voice thing, but really in any context. It's fun to. We've gotten some like Twitter messages and emails of new listeners, and
Yeah, this podcast, unlike our other ones, like it's on a lot of platforms, or at least when we started Creek of the Week, there weren't a lot of platforms.
That's true.
Like, there wasn't no Spotify or anything like that. But we're getting comments on YouTube. If you're commenting on YouTube, thanks.
Yeah.
That's cool. And and also check out our YouTube. Maybe subscribe, I guess, if you want. And yeah, all the places. And we're getting emails and Patreon messages, and it's fun. So keep that shit up. It makes us happy.
yeah, it's very neat to know that people care a little bit. I mean,
A few people like this show, and they are the coolest people on earth.
they
So
really are.
you could say that about yourself. And if you want to
Except
join
for
the
Snake,
Patreon,
except for Snake Plissken.
well, yeah, well, he's not on Earth.
Okay,
He's-
except for Kurt Russell.
Okay, maybe, yeah. But if you want to join the Patreon, it's patreon.com/hightechlowlife. And we'll be putting something out on that soon because we have to.
Yeah, we kind of feel bad that we haven't.
Well, we've been traveling a lot, so
Yeah.
well, I have been.
Oh, we've got some great ideas. We've got some great Patreon concepts coming up soon. I don't know if it'll be the next one, but
Yeah,
got some great ideas.
we'll do some stuff.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, that is it for today. Stay tuned for the new outro, I guess, if you want to. It's not that big a deal. I shouldn't oversell it. It's just an outro.
I think it's great. And even though I really enjoyed the original, I think it is a huge improvement.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all next week. Take it easy. Oh, do you have a quote?
In fact, I do. I'm about to kick your ass out of the world, war hero. Bye!
Bye!
This has been the High Tech Low Life podcast. Find us on Twitter at Johnny60seconds, email us at hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com, and find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hightechlowlife. Theme music by Nihilor at nihilor.com. Thank you for listening.
Keep it moving. Come on, what are you waiting on? Let's go.
They're trashing our rights, man! They're trashing the fluid data! They're trashing! Trashing! Trashing!
Everybody out.
Hide the planet! Hide the planet!
Shut up and get in the